Hi, this is Rosalia, and welcome to another episode of Supraconscious Leadership Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about ego versus supraconsciousness, right? And I'm speaking about this, first of all, from experience, right? For maybe about a decade or so, I was operating only from my ego, and that's fine. It's designed to protect us, to help us thrive and live and survive and sometimes even create, right, from our ego rather than our super consciousness. And that's okay because that's all I had in my awareness at the time. I mean, I had no awareness that there was even an ego versus anything else. About a decade ago, I had no idea about the subconscious, superconscious, or any of the aspects of the psyche, of the soul, etc. Um, so I just thought I was obviously my body, my thoughts, my emotions, and that all that existed was the material world, right? And that's okay. That was my truth at that moment. And that has obviously shifted as my own journey has evolved. And that's why today we're going to be talking about ego versus superconsciousness. And I just put the title versus, but in reality is transcendence and integration of the ego into the superconsciousness, right? So some of the aspects of the ego, right? You're going to have fear involved in it. You're going to be identified with your personal story, your trauma, your losses, your attachments, like whatever has happened throughout your life, right? Whether I'm male or female, whether I'm a minority, whether I'm Hispanic, whether I'm um, gay or not, whether I'm whatever the labels are, right? Labels. If you see there's a lot of separation, there's a lot of competition. Um, Fears, desires, attachments, defense mechanisms, for sure. Looking for, like, to fit into society, looking for validation, whether that's in partners, that's in social groups, like, however that looks like, right? Comparing one another. Comparison's a big one, right? From the ego. Trying to control the outcomes and micromanage the outcomes. That's a big one for the ego, right? Snapping and reacting. That's there's usually no time there to reflect and really make a choice to do something different. So there's that reactivity aspect of it. There's no responding to life, but rather reacting to life. And a lot of the times, especially from the wounds of our inner child, okay? Um, Attachment to outcomes, big time, big time. I'm doing XYZ, I'm working on XYZ project, goal, whatever, 3 to 6 months down the line, and this is the outcome I expect. This is the X amount of money I expect, this or better, right? And that's okay. I mean, it's always good to be positive and to have a good outlook in life, and a good, I don't know if the mic's a little bit far from me. Hopefully this has been, the sound is good here. So um and the ego is very much identified with separation in all aspects, male, female, different backgrounds. This is my profession, that's your profession. um, I'm higher or more intelligent or more whatever than XYZ, right? And there's infinite ways of intelligence. But that's another conversation. So do you kind of see the qualities of the ego to kind of like make it easier to identify per se, right? Okay. A lot of the times the ego is looking for safety, believe it or not, that safety, that validation, and feeling worthy, right? And these things I have mentioned, I believe, are core wounds of our collective unconscious that needs to be healed and transcended. And that is done, one of the ways in which that is done is through self realization, right? Through the process of alchemy, inner alchemy, going within, transcending all that stuff within yourself, right? That's why the change you want to see in the world must be done within you first, and then it will be a reflection, a direct reflection of you, right? So the ego tends to confuse things because and tends to operate at the old programming, at what it knows, because it feels unsafe with the unknown, even if that could be better. It doesn't know that it can be better. It doesn't know that it is safe, right? So that's important. And it tends to confuse whatever titles you have, whatever achievements you have, with your worth, value, right? Seeking that validation or reaffirmation in the material world, very much. And as you know, and if you don't know, you will experience that at some point, it leaves you very much empty inside, right? There's an inner void that cannot be filled by anything external, whether that's substances, men, women, sex, food, right? Whatever that may be. So slowly but surely, at some point, we hit rock bottom, or we do that several times, and then we have that realization from within, right? And in the ego base, you confuse a lot of that information, to be honest. There's just an overload of information. You confuse that with knowledge, true knowledge, or wisdom, right? Simply because you read it on a book or whatever, or you heard a podcast about it, etc., which is fine. It helps to expand our consciousness, but the true wisdom lies within you, the true teachings, the original blueprint, right? And little by little, as you have different initiations, and maturation of your soul and so forth, these teachings will be revealed to you. There's no way to hijack the system. You can't force the wisdoms to emerge. It is a lived transformation within your own beingness, right? Now, the supraconsciousness, that is, I don't know what's coming to me right now, to be honest. It's not what I was going to say, but it's what's coming. So I will just say that. It's the holy mind. That's what's being downloaded through me right now. The supraconsciousness is the holy mind, the complete mind, the wholeness, the I am presence and essence within you. It is a healed mind from distortion, from illusion, from especially from separation, right? From source and from one another. Okay. Qualities of that superconsciousness to kind of make it more relatable in real life: patience, love, compassion, presence, being more in the now moment, right? The ego tends to be in the past or in the future. It's rarely in the now moment, unless it's going to react and snap about something, right? Coherence between your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions, right? So you think, right? You speak and you act according, like everything makes sense, right? You're not saying you're going to do something and then you don't keep your promise and then you go do something else, or you behave in a different way, right? So there's coherence in everything that you think, you do, and you say, right? Your intuition is very, very much heightened because it is directly connected to source. And then you follow those divine directives that you receive. There's a sense of inner peace, inner stillness, that it is what they call that peace beyond all understanding, right? Most definitely, you have more creative solutions, um, creative ideas, right? You are in what they call that flow state. You know what I mean? There's a sense of interconnectedness with everything, with source, with other people, with animals, with the plant kingdom, animal kingdom, mineral kingdom, you name it. There's a sense of oneness, right? Um, Other qualities that I like, it's like innocence and curiosity and joy and play aspect to the super consciousness. Once you tune into that, there's very much that aspect. There's the aspect of flowing with life or flowing with the Tao or going with the Tao, Wu Wei, and not swimming upstream, trying to make life happen, right? What else? Um, Creativity. I know I've already mentioned creativity, but I want to mention it again. Like it's the more you involve yourself in creative outlets, whether that's singing, painting, dancing, whatever that creativity is for you, you will be more in tune with the super consciousness more and more and more. It's like exposing yourself to who and what you truly are, because it's really not anything separate from you, right? It is intrinsically our nature, that super consciousness. Due to being in true alignment with your true self, right? You can go through life challenges easier. You're not as reactive. You're a kinder person, a kinder parent, a kinder human being, a better at your job or at your business, better entrepreneur, better leader, right? There's a sense of obviously not compassion but collaboration. That's what's coming, really, collaboration and seeing how we can make a positive impact in the world as a whole, rather than your own self gain and whatever money you can gain from it, right? There's a sense of partnership with life. Um, what else? And the idea here is not to kill the ego, right? It's very much transcending and integrating it, knowing that it is a necessary, vital part of, let's say, you're a multidimensional self, and that looks like an engine, to call it something, right? So the ego is just one part of the engine. What happens is that we identify ourselves with that one part of the engine, and we don't understand, or we don't see, we don't have the awareness or the remembrance that we are much more part of a bigger structure, per se, to call it something, right? So when you're in tune with that super consciousness, naturally, like, your nervous system's more regulated, right? You have better decision making, you have more clarity, you know where you're going, you know the next steps. Like, it just comes naturally for you. Like, life doesn't feel forced, you know what I mean? um so there's a little bit of that. In a lot of the ancient teachings, you're going to see like a lot of paradox. And when you're first awakening, or sorry, that's my dog. When you're going through that process, it could be confusing. Like, well, do you surrender? Do you take action? But in essence, it's all balance, and it's going to come to you as the situations present themselves. What to do in this situation? You're going to surrender. In this situation, you're going to take action, right? So it all reveals itself very easily. So I'm gonna have to cut it short here. I feel like this gave you guys a good sense of what ego and superconsciousness is. Um, and I'm gonna cut it short here because we have a visit. But I hope this helps. Let me know what other topics you want me to talk about so I can brainstorm. Um, and share with you guys a little bit more about this information. All right, until next time, guys. Thank you. See you then.